Good evening, everyone. My name's Charlie Melvin. If you don't know who I am, I guess I'm a small town bird lawyer slash race car driver. Um, this is something that I've kind of wanted to do for a while. I don't know what to call it. I don't really have a name for it. I guess I'm just going to go by episode and get a name for the episode. This is going to be episode 1. I'm going to call it The Man with a Cardboard Toolbox. This story is the origin of my father, Billy Melvin, and the kind of a start of his racing career and some different things there. So a little bit of backstory. You have my grandfather, my grandmother, my Aunt Patty, and my dad. My grandfather worked at McWayne Pipe. He's a semi-professional football player. He served in Korea, fought for the Golden Gloves at age 17. My grandmother was a union rep, worked down at commercial printing in Birmingham. My Aunt Patty worked down at Health South as one of the first computer programmers of her time. My dad was, so in between his junior and senior year of high school, he took a job doing air conditioning work. Now, for some of the home life, my grandfather had a brother who skipped bail and left my grandfather holding the bag. And so they garnished the wages on the bail. Well, there was just no extra. There was all the time a service to the house getting cut off, water, electricity, gas, just because of not having any money to pay bills. My grandmother would pick up a Saturday shift every week because that was give her work day if they couldn't garnish overtime. And so that was a treat. They could go down to a 25-cent hamburger stand and eat a meal as a family. It was just, that was a treat. So there was no extra money. There was no old family money. There was no inheritance. They lived modest. They had a little house over in Center Point. Well, my Aunt Patty got my dad into racing. She loved racing. She loved Cup. She loved Red Farmer and the late model. She loved going to Sayre. She loved going to Birmingham. This is back, if you didn't get to Birmingham before 4 o'clock, it was standing room only for the features. So my dad, when he got out of high school, took a job doing air conditioning work, just a low man on the totem pole, made $100 a week in 1988-ish, give or take. I might be off by a couple of years. But $100 a week, and had the racing bug. Well, so he found an old car, saved up, scrounged up, begged, and got him an old car, paid $300 for it. And he went, he found him a motor. I want to say Kenny Hogan had it, J&S Auto Parts, and the motor is $350. And by God, he was ready to go. Didn't have a toolbox, didn't have a garage, all he had was a driveway. All right. So his first ever toolbox, and I still have it on the roof of the shop where we race out of today. There's a nice cardboard box. There's a cardboard box. And matter of fact, I've still got one of the first hammers that he ever bought. It's a 2-pound ball peen hammer. And there was no money for electric tools. He would go to flea market, shop meets, swap meets, just wherever cheap tools would be, and that's what he got. So as he got out there and started racing, a guy by the name of Jimmy Wesson took notice. Jimmy owns Gardendale Performance. And Jimmy taught, because my dad, he was just a guy, he didn't know anything about rollout. He set the tire pressures in that old Monte Carlo and went. And so Jimmy started teaching him about setting it up, rollout, different, how to race, how to pass, how not to drive through a guy to finish third, because if you can't pass him clean to third, you weren't that good to race him and remove him like that anyways. So my dad starts getting real hot and heavy, and he picks up a friend. His name's Charlie Cross. Charlie passed away in the mid-1990s. He had brain cancer and brain tumors, and they'd removed part of his skull, and he was just a sick person, and my namesake. If I'm 28, it'd be about the age my dad would be if I'm 28, Charlie would have been 36 or 7. In terms of, if my dad was 28, Charlie's probably 36 or 7. They were great friends, and they spent a lot of time racing. Well, my dad, after kind of learning how to race, graduated up into the street stocks he had a Camaro. And that's where the legend of Billy Melvin really starts. He could take that car, he run Birmingham and Sayre, more Birmingham, but he'd still go to Sayre. He went to Montgomery. He won the first ever Coca-Cola Clash in 1992 at Montgomery. His picture was on the wall at the Coca-Cola Museum for winning that race. It was a 50-lap street stock race. I want to say it paid $1,000 to win. So he was running Birmingham, and he'd wrecked the car about the 4th week of the season. He had won the first 2 races, finished 3rd, and then he wrecked the next week. Well, after repairing the car, he just didn't have a lot of money left over, and he was still on the tires that he had finished the 3rd with. So he finishes okay this night, and then the next week he goes back, and he still didn't have enough money, just bills and just being behind, and he doesn't run. He finishes top 5. He didn't finish top 3. He's top 5 this week. He just didn't have a grip. The next week, he saved up. He just didn't have enough money. He didn't have enough money for even 1 tire. Well, he finishes 7th or 8th or 10th. A man comes down. Now, he had race cars. His name is Ray Putnam. Ray Putnam come down and asked my dad, said, "Son, what's going on? You're not running very well." My dad says, "Well, I didn't have the money for tires." And Ray said, "Well, anytime they have to put you at the back because you won last week, it's a show. We sit up here and drink and take bets and see how long we bet on how many laps it takes you to get to the front. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when." My dad did, very humble. Thank you for the praise, all that kind of stuff. And so he had a good week. He didn't tear the car up. He saved up. So he had enough for 2 tires the next week. Goes down to Greg next to tire truck. Says, I need to get a couple of tires. And Greg says, "We'll pick you out 4. Well, my dad was like, "Oh, Greg, I don't have enough money for 4 tires. I can get 2. I'm going to get 2 rides." And go from there. And Greg said, "No, you've got 4 paid up." But my dad never put 2 and 2 together until a lot later. And I believe right at the time that he did, or had already passed away, but Ray Putnam had went down and bought 4 tires and would never told anyone he did. Never told my dad. Never wanted to know. Never wanted anyone to know. Well, my dad won that night, and then he won the next week. And then he never really had an issue with tires after that. It's that kind of stuff. People have looked at him, and I will be the first to say I'm blessed to race out of a shop we do and with my family. And they see the 4-bay shop and the nice trailer and the nice truck, but they don't see the struggle of just a young guy kill himself for years and years and years doing back-breaking manual labor, and he's paying the price now. It's taking its toll. He's very physically just beat all to pieces, just arthritis, and he's been broken up a couple of times, and it's so my dad wrecked a Harley, and then he wrecked a Harley, broke his left ankle, tore his right rotator cuff. They went in and fixed the rotator cuff. Well, then whatever was in that wreck triggered all of his, so he started growing a lot of bone spurs. Well, he had a bone spur grow into the spinal column, into a nerve, and that nerve controls your diaphragm and your deltoid muscles. Well, that's the reason why he can't raise his arms higher than this. He can raise his right arm a little bit higher than the left, but that's as high as he can get because it paralyzed his deltoids. And when he won the Snowball Derby in 2012, he won it with a paralyzed diaphragm. And the diaphragm is what removes the stale carbon out of your lungs. So he had 48% lung capacity and won the Snowball Derby that deal. That's going to finish it up. Thank y'all for listening. If you would, please drop a like and follow. If this is something you like, let me know. I'll keep talking to the camera.